Okay, let me try. Let me just try. Okay. I'm. It's still the writer's bedroom floor, and the last few videos were not watched by anyone, so there's clearly no hopes of ever making it. I think, well, ever one day making it more populated channel, but that's fine because I made a video diary for myself, and I've imagined it for myself as well. So it's for myself that I'm doing those things. And it's sort of like a therapy for me, not a therapy, but just an occasion to kind of document my journey and document what I was thinking, what I was saying, what I was like, and what mindset I was. And yeah, I guess that's the another video of speaking about that. And I wanted to, yeah, to kind of talk to the camera a bit and talk to myself as well, because it feels like autumn is coming. It has been raining today for the very first time in weeks, in I don't know, months. It felt like we were waiting for the rain for a few days and it didn't come, and today it came. And also, I don't know, somehow it feels like a very morally challenging time because I'm feeling really torn between my main work and the writing. I'm feeling I'm really approaching the key period where I will be actually querying. It doesn't look like a prospect, it does look like a reality now. Um, it does look close. Like I have already, started looking at agents, started at really drafting the query letter and looking at genres because I'm not sure in which genre exactly to place one of the manuscripts I'm going to query. Have plenty of ideas. I'm rewriting the thing, like I'm on draft 2 now, and there will be a draft 3 about the line edits and such. But I'm kind of already having a peek at this whole process and like how many I'd like to query, how I would like to position it, and how would I like to like. It's so weird because I kind of wanted to do it even like in April or something when I wrote the first draft, but I was too exhausted and it was too much of a dream and I had too much fear to actually attempt. So it took me many months and a lot of work and a lot of work on myself to kind of approach that point where it's really not a dream anymore. It's really not just a prospect, and it's really a plan. So it's really planning it and editing it and moving forward and so on. But I'm still a part of me is still in disbelief that this is actually happening and this will actually be happening. And even if the responses won't be positive, let's say, I'm not even like, I try to look at it as if you have to gather kind of like 100 negative responses, and that's already progress. That project where you have to gather 1,000 no's in a year, and people don't manage to do it because there are like yeses all around, and they get opportunities and they get people they meet, and they get job offers and they get all kinds of stuff, and they don't manage to gather like 100 or 1,000 no's. So if I will do the querying thing and I will gather like 100 no's, first of all I will have a story to tell, and second of all, already after a few no's I get the reasons and the feedback, because some of them are personalized and some of them are not personalized. So like if I gather a thousand no's or like 100 no's or whatever, I mean, for me right now, it will first of all mean that I was brave enough to send it out. I was brave enough to actually pursue what I wanted to pursue. It would also mean that I finished the manuscript, which is also like insane. Insane. I couldn't like even look at draft 2 for months. I think like for 3 months, for 2 months, I couldn't even look. I was too exhausted, too burnt out, too much stuff going on, like in life and in job and whatever. So first of all, I sent something to someone. I finished the manuscript, and I've actually walked along this path long enough to go until this very, this very crucial stretch. Because for months, I think most of this year, I wasn't even sure if that's possible. I wasn't even sure if I would ever get to this point. And that's very hard to explain because people query things and they tell other people about it all the time. But I was so unsure of my own writing, and I was so unsure of myself, and I was so fearful that I couldn't even bring myself to look into it. I couldn't even bring myself to even start. And now I'm yeah, I'm kind of more confident, not in my writing per se, but more in myself, I think. So if I've been walking already for 8 months almost, then I will be walking for the rest of the year. Like, I'm more sure that nothing that could potentially happen will derail me from it. Despite, all the physical sensations, like all the emotional stuff, all the burden, all the work, like all the doubts, all the negative situations, negative self talk, and like lack of belief in myself, whatever. Despite all the nervousness, the fear, the anxiety, like I cannot do this, whatever, that I was talking in all the other videos, like I'm sensing myself approaching that stretch and approaching it rapidly, actually. And I'm terrified, of course. I'm terrified, but also it kind of feels weird word, but inevitable. At some point, you walk and you walk and you walk, and these things that you were so afraid of, you approach them, and you're like, oh, here it comes. I mean, I'm actually here now. I'm actually attempting this. And, obviously, like once I actually start doing this, I will finally make like a querying video, I think, and like, depending on how traumatic the experience is going to be. And I will be actually, um, it will be for real. Because when you take your work seriously and attempt to, effectively begin a dialogue, like do a job application, or like what, like do a query, it means that you take yourself seriously, and you take your work seriously, and you take your art seriously, and you finally got enough nerve to just say, to kind of devoid that, listen, this is my thing and I'm taking it seriously, and I really want to do this. And this is not something I'm doing in secret. This is not something I'm ashamed of. This is not something I'm afraid of. This is not something I'm not showing anyone. This is something to show to the world and to attempt to do something with it. So that's the yeah. But I'm actually feeling it approaching, and I'm in awe that it actually seems to be happening. I mean, yeah, it actually seems to be moving forward, because I don't know. I was like, I had so much resistance and so much inner no's, and so much inner limitations, and so much blockages, and so much fear. I say it a lot, but it's true that I've even doubted if you know, I'll ever show whatever I'm made to anyone. Because for years I couldn't even show it to the people who read my blog. I couldn't even show it to my friends. I couldn't even show to anyone. And I was too, yeah, I couldn't do it. But also simultaneously, as usual, like in the end of July, I got another idea, and I've been writing like crazy. And that's why I'm feeling torn. Also, because when you get a new idea, you're like, it's not my phrase, but you're like a dog with a bone, and really, cannot release it really until the flood is on. So it's a bit like electricity current that is coming, that is running through you. and you keep trying to, like, I keep trying to maintain the calm state and to maintain, the normal state and to be a normal person. But when you have stuff coming, like the rush of words, the rush of images, the scenes, like when you're in active work mode, when you're actively writing, this is very, very hard. I mean, you want to write 24/7, or you really want to write multiple hours a day, because the stuff keeps coming and you're afraid that you won't catch everything, and you're afraid that you won't sustain the wave. But it's a very, at the same time, it's a very like an appropriate timing, because I have to double down on this, like, first manuscript, and like the editing it and finishing the edits and the line edits and the querying process. Like, I have to begin the querying already. I mean, not have to, but I am close to it. So, like, it would be really, something to begin doing. But the second one is also like, yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that potent. Because sometimes, I think I was also speaking about it in one of the previous ones. So sometimes you are surprised yourself at how potent your ideas are, meaning like how quickly you rush out a lot of material. And it's not perfect, of course, it's questionable, but your job is to get it out. So it's very inconvenient that, yeah, I'm have to work, and I also like cannot concentrate on work. I like, my brain is very under stress and under pressure at this time. And it's very, like, on the nervous system, on the old nervous system, it's very, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. um because basically the nervous system is trying to deal with the day to day, and also trying to deal with this new big thing, and also with the editing, and also like switching between the two, and trying to not to get too overexcited, because sometimes when you write a lot you get really like charged, and you really are like shaking from the inside almost, and you can't even calm yourself. Like, I'm now speaking to the camera because this calms me down. And when I'm, for example, watching videos or reading books even, or like consuming someone else's content in periods like this, it could get my nervous system out of whack, to be perfectly frank with you. And I'm also noticing that, like, when you write a lot and when you have big dreams and you're kind of close, or like you're close to like at least a period in your life where you'll attempt this thing for real, you are so sensitive, and you are so like a wire, so on edge. Maybe it's not visible, but you're so kind of charged. Like, I've already said it, but you feel like, yeah, sometimes you feel like you're really vibrating inside, like you're really, like, you can't sustain. Basically, if I ever like succeed in this thing, I think I will just black out or something. Like, I will really be sweating and crying and blacking out, and I don't know, like, I will really lay down on the floor and be like, oh god, a bit like this. But also, I kind of want to mention that sometimes, like, I'm looking back at the year, or at, like, a year ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. I'm looking back at it and I'm like, it was a bit like a spiral, because it was not really a ladder, it was not really like a climb, it was not really, it was a bit like a spiral. So, I mean, a year ago, I was writing as well. Like, a year ago, I was dreaming about being traditionally published as well. I mean, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, I was also writing and also thinking about it. I mean, 3 months ago, again. Like, I mean, I was always doing the same thing. And every day, almost, I was doing this thing. So it's the same as with videos. Even if nobody watches them, I was doing this thing, I was persistent with it. So Yeah, I was doing it a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. But I'm noticing that over time, there is progress, and there is progress that you can't see when you're in it. Like, for example, in English, I write much better now and much faster now. Um, in terms of editing, I'm a lot more sure because in the beginning, I was not even sure, is this really grammatically correct, or is this um, sentence good? um, I had a feeling for the rhythm, and I had a feeling for kind of the musicality of the language, but I wasn't even sure at times. I wasn't sure of the voice, of how to do the narrative, whether it's engaging enough, and like I wasn't sure in the quality of the material, basically. And now, um, I'm noticing that I'm improving, basically, and also, of course, when like I mean, it takes years, I think. It takes years and decades because at times you're writing and you're writing, and later on, 3 months after it's finished, 6 months after it's finished, you look at it and you're like, this is naive, this is not good. But unfortunately or fortunately, at the time, you couldn't do better than that. And I think that's why also this is a process, because maybe now what I'm considering as good or as stronger than I used to be in terms of writing, maybe I need another months, or like, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, a year, or whatever, to actually see what's good and what's not good, you know because sometimes you just don't see. And that's why I also left the manuscript, which I wrote the draft one in like April, March, I think, March, April. And I kind of like was intending to begin editing immediately, and I was intending to kind of begin querying much earlier, but I left it for a few months. Why? Not only because of the fears and the resistance and stuff, I left it because I wasn't sure if it was strong enough, and I needed distance, and I needed perspective, and I needed to grow kind of like and learn in my craft and practice a bit more and write a bit more and live a bit more and gain more distance from the manuscript to actually be able to work on it again. Because when I'm working on it again now, I'm reading it like an external kind of person, and I can make it stronger objectively, because now I understand that at the time I was too close to it to actually make it stronger immediately. And I do believe that sometimes you just try something, it's good, and you can't really make it much stronger. But at times, maybe I was led to leave this thing for some time because I couldn't make it stronger, because I couldn't make it clear, because I couldn't make it more engaging, because, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm kind of noticing in my voice kind of getting lower and lower, but like, not on my higher normal red, not on the higher tone. But the thing is, I'm kind of thinking out loud because I was punishing myself actually for moving so slow. I had a lot of thoughts, and I still do sometimes, about, but why did it take you so much time to write, to come up with ideas, to come up with draft two, to come up with draft three, to work on the draft five, to rewrite this and to rearrange the chapters, and then you'll have to do the line edits, and then like, why did it take you like why did it take you so much time to like restructure certain things, and why can't you move faster? Why do you have to leave it for time being? Because now I do understand, because it takes time. It really takes time to work on something. Sometimes you have inspiration, it's true, and you just get it onto the page and it works and it's good. And that's the privilege of working every day for years to try to make it better. That's a privilege, because at the end of the day, sometimes like you arrive at a point where you can get something done, and like you are happy with how it turns out, rather than you have to rewrite everything. But still, I'm rewriting my own stuff that I'm writing right now, and I'm already noticing like this is a bit long, this could be better, this maybe like it's more telling, not showing. Here, maybe you went too harsh. Here, maybe it's too morbid. Like, you know, I'm noticing stuff too, but I was so cruel on myself. I was punishing myself so much for taking my time with it. I even in my head was like, but why couldn't you just leave your job and in 3 months you could have done like the manuscript and the querying and everything? And also, like, you know how people say don't query too early? And I do think it's very true because really, like, sometimes 2 months afterwards you look at it and you're like, oh fuck, this is like this is not, I could have made it so much better. I could have really, like, this is not the standard. This is just not worth anyone looking at it like in the form that it is right now. Or I had like another issue. It's already 20 minutes, so we'll try to be brief. But I had another issue with this thing that I left for like 3 months, and the issue was that I didn't have a strong beginning. I mean, I did have like like a prologue and the first chapter, but the first chapter, I didn't really like that much. The prologue, I think, stayed in place actually, but the first chapter I didn't much like. It was not as strong as I would like it to be. Um, and it really it began in a place where it was a bit banal. It was a bit ordinary. Like, I mean, it was not a strong beginning that I would like to have, and I really didn't have many ideas or like hunches or hints or nudges or like anything on what to begin it with, because I had a lot of chapters. They were all like kind of different, like concepted and about different things, but I I knew I needed a stronger beginning, and I was kind of like, I cannot begin half-assed, kind of. I cannot begin and then 3 chapters down, it starts getting really good. Like, it needs to be really good from the beginning, because when you are querying, you are sending people. It depends on fiction or non-fiction, but you are sending people your first pages, your first, like, I don't know, 10 pages, 15 pages, 50 pages. Depends on what people ask. Sometimes they don't ask for pages, but like, it depends on the genre of the book and how you position it, but they ask for your first pages and they don't read any longer, any further, sorry, if your pages are not good. And I knew I couldn't sacrifice the first pages, because if they are not captivating the attention of the person, I still don't know, but if they're really not captivating people, if people are really not interested, then they won't read any further, and they will never request, a full manuscript. They will never, be interested in anything more. And I am kind of not that way, in a sense that I like the concept of a book, and if I like a concept of a book, I will read it for, the first multiple pages until, like, I'm interested in exploring what it is on 50%, 55%, 70%, whatever. I am less focused on the first pages, but I do understand the principle of it. And also, I do think because of this, I've seen some books who are insanely good on the first, pages, and much less good later on. That also is sometimes telling, because they hook you and they are like very strong. You get sucked in, but then, sometimes it's there is this quality that that the book is kind of falling apart. But anyway, so that's a bit, I guess, on the topic of why it sometimes takes months to work on the drafts, 2 3 whatever of the manuscript, and not immediately query it and immediately offer it to someone.